Okay, we're back. Thank you everyone for week one. It was fun. It's going to be episode 2 of Yankees and Mets podcast. Got some stratometric behind me, stratomatic actually, but shout out to them for giving me that. So I appreciate that. But more importantly, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. A couple twists and turns for sure. I have a cool thing that we'll show once Pat gets on. Pat is a very good friend of mine, very good Yankees and Mets reporter on Sports Illustrated. And now he's also breaking a story that we're going to get to. The Mets have spoken to Padres about Dylan Cease and Michael King are available for trades. Braves are also interested in both arms, and he's very busy right now. He's going to give me like 20 minutes whenever he's ready. So I understand completely a lot of good stuff going on. The Mets are very busy. And here's the news I was going to share to my Met friend fans that are listening to this. I would say he actually kind of beat me to the punch, although I kind of knew a little before. I'm curious how close the stuff is with Michael King and the Mets, because the rumor I had heard was that deal was close. That's the news I got, was that it was close with Michael King and the Mets. So I'm going to see how he feels about that when he pops in. And that's how we'll evaluate that, and we'll see like how he reciprocates that, or if he feels the same. I feel like the Braves are a better fit for Dylan Cease, but a lot of move for the Mets right now, and so that's what's going on. And we're gonna see how all that stuff looks, and I'm looking forward to getting into it today. It's gonna be a really good day. Yankees, Hal Steinbrenner made some comments I'm gonna get into. They lose Ha-Sung Kim to the Rays, which is a stinger because they still don't have a third baseman. I'm going to get into the international pool as well. The thoughts about Dominguez playing left. And I didn't really touch on Jesse Winker last time, so I'll do that more today, and I'll definitely ask Pat what he thinks about that. So that's what I would say about that. And then I did make a mistake I want to admit as well. I would say that it wasn't Christian Sprout, it was Brandon Sprout. I got that confused with the other guy, Christian Scott. So sorry about that. But Sprout is the top prospect for the Mets. This kid's filthy. He throws 98 to like 100 plus. Nathan, thanks for popping in. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to tonight. I really am. I did get a few questions I'll get to as well. Thank you. Appreciate it. I did have a few questions I'll get to as well, so we'll go from there and we'll see what happens with that and how we're going to go forward. But for the Yankees, like someone's asking me on Facebook, my friend Caleb Vasquez, who's a diehard Yankees fan and goes to a bunch of events and stuff, he asked me, are the Yankees done at third base? Or are they going with what they have? Well, losing Ha-Sung Kim to the Rays definitely is not going to help that situation. But, like, I don't know if they're actually done. It doesn't feel good right now. I'm not happy with the current situation. I really think, like I've been saying, it's boring, and I hate giving the same answer, and it's really unnecessary that they should have to do this. But the fact of the matter is that Marcus Stroman, again, like they don't want to go over the tax. That's what it is. And I'm going to see if Pat feels differently than I do, but it doesn't look like they want to go over at all. And right now they're $2 million over, which makes zero sense in the world to be that little over. So something's got to give here. They're going to have to do something to fix that. Is it trading lighter that almost fixes it? Grisham, I don't think is expandable anymore. I was going to talk about that, but like now that they're putting Dominguez in left, they're going to need Grisham ready in case he can't do that, and I hope he can. And would I put him in center? Probably, but they want to put Belly in center and not disrupt any movements. Like, doesn't make any sense. It's like for the few days they want to give Judge or something. Like, I don't know. I don't understand the logic with a lot of things that they do. But that's another one that might not be the best and most sound decision to make as well. So that's what I would say with that. And that's what I would say. Like with the Yankees, like I'm just not happy still. Because guess what's changed in the last week? Nothing, except Hal Steinbrenner's made some comments, and I don't think that's going to be received too kindly. I certainly did not receive them too kindly. So here's my biggest issue with it, and Michael K said this too, and I'll give him credit for this. first of all, Hal says that the Yankees can't spend like the Dodgers. It's tough for us other owners. Well, Hal, you're not group of those owners. You're in the big boy market. Whether you want to act like that or not, that's on you. But to not go over $300 million and not give yourself a third baseman and not a left-handed reliever is pathetic. And I'm going to say it again until they do something. And I don't want to hear they're waiting at the market and the prices because the Rays just took a very useful player from the Yankees. And yeah, he wants to play shortstop maybe. Okay, I mean, you know what fixes that? If you give him more money. The Yankees didn't even try from anything I understand. They did not even try. And there's no excuse for that because he was the best fit and it wasn't going to cost that much money. It was 2 years, like $29 million around. He gets a little $2 million bonus. And yeah, I know the shoulder's hurting and he's not going to play right away. And yes, the Yankees have had their bad issues with the injuries, but at the same time, what was really better for them? Like they don't have any good options right now. Alex Bregman is just not realistic at all. So that needs to be erased from people's minds. It's not happening. And it's just not going to happen. So I don't want to hear about it anymore because it's just not a thing. Nolan Arenado, I also don't think is going to happen either. The Cardinals put themselves in an awful situation with that, like a terrible situation, absolutely awful. They don't know what they're doing. He denied a trade to the Astros, and they might be stuck with him. And I don't think the Yankees are a fit either because I'm talking about all this financial stuff. And if they did try to offer Marcus Stroman, the Cardinals didn't want it. Would they reconsider? I don't know because his contract's not as bad as Arenado's, but they don't want to be stuck with him either, probably. I'm really tired about talking about Marcus Stroman, so I'm really not going to say much about him anymore. Doing nothing is crazy. No backup catcher, infielder, lefty reliever is unforgivable. Well, I'm gonna bite back at backup catcher because I think they do have one. Pat, okay, let's do it. Pat, what's up, my guy? How you doing?
What's up, Julian? How are you?
Pat, thank you so much for coming on. I know you've been busy breaking news left and right with some sources and all these stories that the Mets have going on. So, Pat, I was talking before the show about the Mets and Michael King kind of before as you were breaking it too. Like, how realistic do you think that is? I did hear that it could be close potentially, but I don't know what you're hearing on that.
I don't know about close, but I mean, the Mets are serious. Michael King makes a lot of sense for them. Even for a 1-year rental, he would be a frontline starter added to the top of the rotation, making that group not only deeper, but even more top heavy, which they don't have a bona fide ace. So a healthy Kodai Senga, Manaea is back, David Peterson coming up a breakout year. And then you throw Michael King in the mix, and then Frankie Montas is their number 5, and Clay Holmes is their number 6. Like, that's a pretty serious rotation that could potentially contend with the Phillies, who are loaded now after getting Luzardo, and the Dodgers getting Snell and Sasaki, like Glasnow coming back. The Mets could hang with the big dogs with that in terms of their rotation if they wind up making a move for a Michael King. It just depends how much they would have to give up. Like, it's not normally a David Stearns move to give up significant assets for a rental player. But, I mean, the Mets have the financial backing to be a serious suitor to extend him next year. And the other thing is that Michael King's headed to an arbitration hearing most likely next month with the Padres, which could get ugly. And King proposed, I believe, $8.8 million. The Dodgers are at about 7.5, 7.7. So, yeah, I mean, either price point, I wrote it in my story that I just hit publish on, but either price point for a number of outside suitors would be a perfect world. Even, especially the Mets, getting a top starter for that price in 2025. It's a bargain for how good King is.
When the other great thing about King is when we were thinking about, I was thinking that King made more sense than Cease, like when you were originally talking about both pitchers, because we know that King can pitch in New York. So he already checks that box off. It's a great contract. I think there's a better chance the Mets will re-sign King opposed to Dylan Cease if they were going to go that route. I really think Atlanta makes a lot of sense for Cease. I know you were talking about the Braves too in your story. So I could definitely see that if they pair with both of them. Now, my question is, do you think the Padres would deal both of them, or is it like a one or the other type thing?
That I don't know, actually, because I'm not sure. Are the Padres looking to contend this year? Probably. AJ Preller is one of the most aggressive baseball execs in the game, but there's a lot of dysfunction going on right now in fighting between ownership, leadership group in their baseball department. Like, it's just not a very good situation right now. And yeah, I think that probably dealing one of them would make sense. I don't know that they deal both if they're trying to contend this year, and they are trying to trade Luis Arias as we've heard. But I kind of went through it of the possibilities that the Mets and Padres have at least talked about one top 5, top 10, top 15 prospect in terms of Michael King. Okay. And I floated the idea of Starling Marte, who the Mets have been trying to trade this offseason, and there's not much traction there. And the Padres just lost their left fielder in Jurickson Profar to the Braves, so Marte could fill in there. And he's coming off a pretty solid year with the bat and still has some production there, it seems. And the Mets would have to pay down a significant portion of his salary, but they're willing to do that. And they would still save some money that they'd be able to allocate to acquiring a King with the money that they save from paying a portion. Even if they have to pay 10, 15 million of the 20 million that Marte is owed, 5 to 10 of that could go into, it could potentially pay for all of C's, or 5 million of it could pay for C's salary in Michael King. 5 million could pay for Michael King's salary in 2025. So it makes a lot of sense to me.
No, I completely get you with that. And like the Padres desperately need some hitting. They're going to lose a few guys. Like Ha-Seong Kim went to Tampa Bay. And I actually think that's a big blow for the Yankees because their infield's very empty still at third base. And that was the guy to me that made a lot of sense. So do you think the Yankees are done? Or like, will they get some type of infielder in there? Like, what's your sense on that?
I think the Yankees are going to remain opportunistic. The word out there is that they're holding tight until they trade Marcus Stroman, but that doesn't make sense because dealing Marcus Stroman probably won't happen until spring training because there's still a number of viable starters on the open market. So why would people trade for Marcus Stroman, who's making $18 million, even if the Yankees pay down a portion of his salary? And on the other hand, if Stroman hits 140 innings, they're on the hook for $18 million in 2026 with him. So I just don't think that the Yankees should be halting before that move happens, because if that's the case, then they're not going to make any moves from now until probably spring training when they're able to trade him, if they're even able to. So I don't think they should be banking on an unknown like that. And at least Tim Hill, which I reported the other night, the Yankees, there's still mutual interest there, especially with the Mets now signing Ryan Stanek and the I don't know why I'm blanking. Another reliever, I believe, just went as well. I don't know why it's blanking.
I'm trying to think too. Well, you guys the Mets did get Minter. I don't know if you're talking about Minter. There was another reliever that signed too. I might have to check Twitter really quick. Tommy Kahnle went to the Tigers.
Exactly. So Kahnle will not come back for another stint with the Yankees.
Right.
They need a lefty. Tim Hill was great for them last year. He's comfortable there. They're comfortable with him. They did lose Desi Druskull to the Mets, and that'd be another reason for Hill to go over there. Desi Druskull plus Jeremy Hefner, the pitching lab, the resources they have, player development, like perfect world for Hill, but it just might not be an option now because the Mets were in the mix as of Monday night when I reported it, but now they've re-signed Ryan Stanek, so it doesn't really make sense for Hill for the Mets to sign Hill. So all signs to me are pointing back to Hill returning to the Yankees.
I think that's what they need to do at a minimum, at least, like to get a lefty in there. I know a lot of the righties can get the lefties out, and they did get some higher leverage arms, but like you still need a lefty in that bullpen come the postseason and all that, like to get a big lefty out, like a Rafi Devers or something like that. Like Boston's loaded with lefties. Like you need some type of lefty to go against them in the bullpen. Just one example, but yeah, hopefully the Yankees figure that out. Like, where do you think that price range sits for him? Like, what's the estimate you would give for like a Tim Hill contract?
I mean, Ryan Stanek throws hard, and is a righty, of course, and he just got $4.5 million. He got $4.5 million from the Mets, $500K in incentives that can go to $5 million this year. So Tim Hill, he doesn't throw hard, but he's a lefty. He is good at, he's a soft tosser, but he gets weak contact. 2.05 ERA in 44 innings with the Yankees, and 1.08 ERA in the postseason. And he's high leverage tested, big stage tested. He's got a case for making a little money here. I just don't know that he's going to get more than Stanek, but also I'm not sure. So maybe around the $4 million range, maybe 3.5, and have some incentives in there as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good ballpark for him. And again, like I was saying before you got on, like the Yankees are $2 million over the luxury tax. It makes no sense to be 2 million over. Like they're gonna have to figure something out about that. Like either if it's cutting, even if it's like waiting for that trade to happen, you're still 2 million over. Like that's not enough to like stop you from doing anything, and it shouldn't. And you also like don't want to like be in that awkward spot of being only a little bit over. Like if they're gonna go over, like make it worth going over. You don't want to be like $2 million over. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the Yankees, again, they've made moves, but I'm pretty surprised with how quiet they've been in January. They've done nothing, been in on no one. The Yankees of old would sign Alex Bregman. I know Jeff Passan just brought that up, I believe, on Talking Yanks. And he's right. I'm in agreement that, if they are serious, like, yeah, they should be able to get to the World Series with the current team they have. Let's say they bring back Hill. They should be able to get to the World Series with the squad that they have, and then making moves at the deadline. Of course, I'm sure they see it that way. The AL is very weak again.
Yeah.
But do they want to win the World Series? Do they? Oh, Carlos Estevez just signed with the Royals. Actually, that's just.
Oh, all right. Well, we got some news, everyone. Carlos Estevez signed with the Royals. Let me see if I can put that in the ticker really quick. That's an interesting get for them, and that really moves the bullpen market too a little bit.
Yes, it does. The bullpen market is moving now. Like we've seen it. Stanek, Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, now Estevez, and Tim Hill's market is heating up. I reported the other night the Mets, Yankees, Diamondbacks, Dodgers, Rockies, and Angels are all in on him. So,
all right, let's see. Yep, I got it on there. So, yep, everything's going nuts. But yeah, that's a good move for them. Have you heard anything about Finnegan? He kind of seems like he might be the best bullpen arm left on the market. I'm curious where things might stand with him.
That's one that I'm surprised hasn't happened yet, and I think will happen soon. Just because we had heard that his market was heating up maybe about a week ago, and usually when those types of reports come out, then that means that teams are close, and it might push them into making a deal. So Finnegan probably be with Estevez now off the board. Finnegan might be the next one to go. David Robertson, Andrew Chafin's still out there. Tim Hill, of course, is probably will wind up signing a deal, in the coming weeks at least, maybe sooner. Finnegan would be a good, good ad for any bullpen. But we just know like the Dodgers are full, the Mets look full, and the Yankees need a left-hander. So
right,
those three teams, the top three big dogs, are probably out. But maybe the Phillies. I mean, the Phillies lost Estevez and Jeff Hoffman, so maybe Finnegan could be a fit with the Phillies. Craig Kimbrell's still out there as well. I know he had a horrid second half last year. Really, from July on, he was terrible. But the first couple months, he was great. He's pitched with the Phillies in the past. Toronto seems like they're probably set on their bullpen. They brought back Garcia. They brought in Hoffman, and they're focused on adding potentially Max Scherzer. They've been in on Pete Alonso. We'll see about them and Bregman. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I think that, you got to think about like the teams like the Phillies, who probably could still use some bullpen pieces.
Yeah, Finnegan, I heard the Guardians were interested, Angels, Blue Jays, and Cubs. Cubs probably out with the Ryan Presley trade. That's another big move on the bullpen front. Definitely a lot of bullpen traffic going. So the Yankees probably would want to act sooner rather than later on Tim Hill just to make sure they at least get him back. Do you think Andrew Chapin is like a backup plan if they didn't get Tim Hill? Because I know there was some stuff with the Yankees and Chapin too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why Chafin wouldn't be an option. I know it was an option they were considering at least a few weeks ago. He might be a little more pricey than Hill potentially, and they're not as familiar with Chafin. And Chafin's seems like he's been traded at every single deadline.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Chafin's always a guy who I've liked. Some rival scouts I've talked to, have said some things about him that maybe there's there's certain, underlying reasons maybe why not every team's, gone after him as aggressively when you look at the surface numbers, how solid he's been really since 2021. But I think that would be Chafin if they don't get Hill would be a pretty good option.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see if they want to explore that. The bullpen market's definitely heating up. The starting pitchers on the move. Do you think there's anything with Castillo in the Mets? Do you think that's like completely dead?
I think it would cost too much. I mean, Castillo has more years of control, but I don't think that the Mets would do it, at least at this point, unless an opportunity arose, because, I mean, they would have to give up a lot, and it probably would start with Acuna. And I know I'm a believer that you should sell high on your prospects and not sell low. But at the same time, like Acuna showed a lot in a big spot on a big stage, and is a big reason the Mets won a wild card spot last year. So as rough as his offensive season in AAA was, he hit well in the bigs in a short stint, and he's valuable in other ways. He's a good fielder, versatile type of player that David Stearns values with that positional flexibility, and he's a base stealer and can wreak havoc on the bases. So like I think that Acuna is probably someone that they should hold on to. I'm not sure that they're going to, but they really like him, and I don't know that they'd want to give him up, and that's probably what it would take, and more to get Luis Castillo.
That's a fair thing. The Mariners need a bunch of hitting, so that makes a lot of sense for them. Their infield's like empty, basically. So looking at that and then going through some other things, like when I'm going back to the Yankees, like this talk about the trade deadline trying to get the third baseman, then I really don't like, because we've seen this in the past where they've left field open and have never figured it out like 2 years ago. Like I don't want them to just leave the position open all year, and at the trade deadline they say, oh, it's too much, the prices were too high, we tried, we couldn't find a fit. Like how many times do we go through this for them just to be like a little bit short? Like they just don't finish the team. Like it's just like doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand.
Happens with every team every year. We say the same things, that they should have done more. They should have done more. Dodgers are on their own level. Dodgers.
Yeah.
What we say they are. No, they've done too much. They've done too much. Bad for baseball.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, if the Mets seriously want to close the gap, but also at the same time, teams leave about 10 to 15 million open to make moves at the deadline of significance.
It's true.
But if the Mets want to compete and hang with the Dodgers, I truly think that bringing in another frontline starter and bringing back Pete Alonso is what gets it done. And if they can't bring back Pete Alonso, they can still get a frontline starter, whether that's trading for one or signing a Jack Flaherty if his price continues to go down to a 1 to 3 year deal, maybe a 3-year deal with opt-outs. I don't really know what that looks like, but Pivetta is another guy. Like Pivetta is a guy to keep an eye on if Alonso does leave, because Alonso is attached to a QO. Pivetta is attached to a QO. It would cancel out. So, yeah, I think Pivetta is a guy who the Mets have liked for a while, so that's something to keep an eye on. But I'm thinking big. I'm thinking instead of adding to your depth of the middle of your rotation, adding to the top in a Flaherty or a King or even a Cease, even though I don't see Cease as likely as King.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. If I'm going from the Mets standpoint, I definitely want to get a top-tier guy. Like, I feel like they have a few Pivettas already. Like, some guys are trying to hope to turn around that have, like, good underlying stuff. Like, Flaherty, I think, would be a solid Met. I think Michael King would be the absolute best, even though they'd have to trade some things to get him. Like, there is definitely a route to re-signing him. And I think it really helps them in that win-now window, especially if they end up losing Pete. It's probably more realistic. Oh, actually, no, they could probably get Pete and King, because King doesn't cost that much right now. So they probably could do that. So who is your favorite to start at third if they don't bring back Alonso? Like, do you think Jeff McNeil could be a limbo, or do you think he's their starting second baseman?
Jeff McNeil plays a bunch of different positions. Brandon Nimmo is dealing with plantar fasciitis and is going to be slow in spring training, and they got to play it safe with him, and it's a marathon, and they can't risk him worsening it and losing him for a bigger chunk of the season. So at the same time, like Jeff McNeil, I could see playing left field, and so would Starling Marte, and so would Jesse Winker and Tyrone Taylor. Like if they don't trade Marte, they still have Winker, they still have McNeil who could play left. Acuna with a big spring training could play second base, and McNeil could be in left. And whether Nimmo has to DH in the beginning or if he has to start on the IL, like they're covered. They're pretty deep there. As far as third base, like McNeil has experience there. He struggled with throwing from the position in 2019 and 2020, and I don't think it's a position he likes to play. I think preferably they would love in a perfect world to leave Mark Vientos at third base and make sure that he can continue his development at third base, which we saw last year. He made some big strides, and despite the numbers and being a negative defender, but having him being able to focus on his offense, which is what they need if he's going to be their number 3 hitter, no matter what they do here on out. I think that makes more sense, and it's a bigger risk having him have to learn first base and master that position, and that could affect his offense, and that would be trouble for the Mets. So I think in a perfect world, Vientos would play third, and if the Mets can't bring back Alonso, then they could trade for a Ryan Mountcastle or a Spencer Torkelson, or if Vientos has to play first base, then Acuna, Brett Beatty and Mauricio, I guess, competing at third. But Acuna, I think, could handle third base and be good at it. But he's not like Jose Iglesias, who handled the position as a utility last year and a late defensive replacement at third. They're not the right size for third base, and they don't have the power. So it just it doesn't make as much sense. Mauricio, I really like because he hits the ball very, very hard and has a lot of power. But he's coming off a torn ACL. You just don't know. He hasn't played in 2 years. 26 games of big league experience. And Brett Beatty is someone who might be his last shot because he's gotten chance after chance and he just hasn't. He's torn it up in the minors, especially after his demotions, but he just hasn't hit at the big league level for more than a short stint. So yeah, I don't know. I still think that the Mets are gonna maybe add. But then again, I just wrote about this as well. Like their budget is I believe it's estimated at $297 million right now. Their estimated payroll per roster resource on Fangraphs, and their budget right now is $301 million. But honestly, like any other moves that they make, they're going to go past that number. So unless they defer a bunch of money with a smaller ad, but if they want a big starter, or even a mid-tier starter, or if they want Alonso or both, like they're going to wind up blowing past that number. Steve Cohen's shown that he's willing to do that in the past and forfeit the luxury tax penalties and everything that comes with it, and was willing to do it 2 years ago with Carlos Correa when everyone thought the Mets were done after their wild spending spree in 2023. That deal fell through, but at the same time, Cohen has, again, if it makes sense to him, if he thinks that they can challenge the Dodgers and take them down this year and win a World Series, then he's going to heavily consider it. So, yeah, that's just, in my opinion, what the Mets can do to where we're not sitting here saying that they could have done more.
Yeah, you definitely laid a lot of options out there. I think Mountcastle will be a good fit, honestly. Torkelson, maybe that could get him to bounce back. Like that Beatty Torkelson move, it will be a little interesting one, maybe if they want to work something around that. So then I'll ask you the thing about the Mets. Everyone's been asking you, and it seems like it changes every day, and you've been on top of this for a while. Does your gut tell you Pete Alonso's returning, or is he going to be wearing another uniform?
My gut tells me last week. My gut told me that Pete Alonso was going to go to another team, and I thought it was going to be the Blue Jays, and that hasn't happened. And there's expirations on these offers, so I don't know what he was offered from the Jays. He hasn't accepted it yet. And everybody and their brother seems to think he's holding out for the Mets, especially after that war of words on Saturday in public statements from Cohen addressing the fans, and then Scott Boris's rebuttal to The Athletic. It seems like Pete's heart is still with the Mets, and if they can find common ground, then he'll be a Met. And I think no matter what happens and who he signs with, he's going to be a free agent again next offseason. So, yeah, I don't know. I think John Heyman was saying it's 50-50. I don't know if I feel that strongly about it, but wow. I don't know. It seems more likely than it was even a day or two ago. So, yeah, they're re-engaged in talks, and I think now maybe it could happen if Alonso kind of, decides, hey, this is where I want to be. I don't want to go anywhere else, and I'm going to be a free agent next year anyway. So I want to spend it in a lineup with Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor and make a run at a title and become the all-time leader in home runs for the Mets in one season if he stays healthy, and he's a durable player. So, I think he still makes the most sense to go back to the Mets, and he's still the Mets' best option at first base, and the Mets are still the best option for him.
This thing has really come a long way because I thought last week there was no chance he was returning either. Now it's getting the 50-50. Once you start going the other way, that it becomes maybe a favorite to bring him back. But his contract's so complicated because no, they're not even close to what he wants, but he's not worth anything close to what he wants either. So the Mets, I think, are being somewhat fair here, and he's just not willing to budge. But we're getting closer to spring training. I don't know how. I'm sure he's very routine oriented too, so I'm sure he's not going to be happy to not be in a camp in 2.5 weeks if it's not resolved. So I wonder if he's going to try to push for something these next 2.5 weeks to see if the Mets can just get it together with him. Because I do agree, he does fit them the best. For the Blue Jays, it's kind of maybe he would start something there, but they would still need to do more. Angels is not going to really get him too far, obviously, and there's not many other suitors. So I think it's still, like you said, I think for both sides, it still makes the most sense for a reunion. Well, I guess we'll see if it comes together.
Yeah, no, that's well said. I think all signs are pointing that this isn't over yet, and it's not going to be over maybe for a couple more weeks. At the same time, the Mets have moved on, and if they're going to bring in another first baseman, that will lock the door on Pete.
Right.
And I just don't know that it's who's going to budge first. Is Alonso going to make his decision first, or are the Mets going to be more cold-blooded and trade for a first baseman before he makes his decision? I don't see the latter happening. I think that Alonso's going to make his decision, and then we're going to see what the Mets are going to do, which could come quickly after that.
Right. Yeah. I would be surprised if they traded for like a Mountcastle or like a Torkelson before like we saw the Alonso decision too. If they do that, then like we already know it's over at that point. So I'll switch gears to the Yankees. I know you got to get going. So like, what do you think they could realistically do to fill this infield void? Like, it's really tough right now. They put themselves in a bad spot. They're not going to like go over the tax or anything for this. Like, I'm not really sure what to expect here.
With the Yankees, I mean, Boone was saying it on WFAN, like they're gonna have DJ and I know fans aren't gonna like hearing it, but DJ and Oswaldo Cabrera and Oswaldo Peraza competing at third, Jazz going back to his best position at second base, Dominguez playing left, Bellinger in center, Goldie at first. Like that, they have a good defensive team, a better defensive team now. Judge back and right, but they don't really have a backup catcher. They do probably need one in case Wells gets hurt. And yeah, I just think they're probably going to be opportunistic, but the options are flying off the board. And I don't see them bringing in an everyday player unless they do move Stroman. That's kind of, I think, where they're at right now. I don't think they're going to get Bregman. I don't think they've been in on Bregman at all.
No.
And yeah, again, like maybe they could surprise us. Maybe Hal could make a move like his father used to do and surprise everybody. But I haven't seen it, and we haven't seen it in a long time. I mean, they did get Soto last year. They got Verdugo, which they thought was a good move at the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people did, including myself. But at the same time, like they kind of stopped there. But they don't have Juan Soto anymore. They don't have two generational players in their lineup anymore. And Giancarlo Stanton, as good as he was good last year in the regular season, he was hurt for a bit. And he was great in the postseason. But again, can you rely on him for a full season? Can you rely on him being healthy in the postseason? Judge was healthy for a full season last year, playing center, which was, again, a shock to me that he was able to stay healthy, being on his feet so much and covering so much ground. Just a number of question marks with them, but their run prevention has improved. It just has their lineup improved. Maybe they got some more quality and lengthened a little bit, but they lost a major star at the top of their lineup. They don't have a natural leadoff hitter right now. And last year we were talking about them being super top heavy, but right now they might just lack star power beyond Judge and Stanton.
Yeah, it's not even top heavy. It's not heavy at all now, honestly. I mean, Bellinger, you're hoping for a bounce back, and I think he could be okay, but it's still not enough. Like Goldschmidt, you're praying that he's not too old to do it anymore. Like, he won't be as bad as Rizzo, but, like, what are you going to get from him, really? I think Chisholm will be nice. Now, the biggest X factor is definitely going to be Jason Dominguez to see what happens with him, because he can make a big difference opposed to the offensive production Verdugo wasn't giving them. I don't know if I would have liked him in center. Maybe I would have liked to play him in center to the left, but hopefully he can figure out left field. I have an interesting question for you. Which young core do you like better, the Yankees or Mets? Like the Volpes, the Wells, the Dominguez's, or like the Mauricios, the Beatties, and the Acuñas, and like Alvarez, like some of those guys?
We've seen more from the Mets young group with the season Vientos just had, and Alvarez,
right, him too, yeah,
putting up 25 homers and as a rookie in 2023, and just being an elite framer and defensive catcher behind the plate. They've shown more. Wells was impressive. I guess you could lump in Luis Heel too.
Right, yes, of course.
Heel and Wells were impressive in certain stretches last year. Volpe just hasn't developed as a hitter yet. He is a Gold Glove caliber shortstop. He's very good defensively, but hasn't developed as a hitter. Dominguez has really shown nothing. I know he's been hurt for a while, but like now's the time. Like now's his shot, and he needs to show it and put up this year. Otherwise, people will start calling him a bust. And do I think he is a bust if he doesn't produce this year? Not necessarily, but right now the Mets young core is ahead of him just for how good Vientos was last year and Alvarez has been in the past. And keep in mind, Alvarez got thumb surgery during the season and returned in 7 weeks, and his power wasn't there when he came back from thumb surgery. So a healthy Francisco Alvarez should see more so the power hitter that we saw in 2023. So that didn't just go away. He just was on the mend and had a major surgery and an injury. So yeah, I think the Mets are ahead in the and look at David Peterson too. David Peterson had a breakout year in the rotation as well, and then pitching out of the bullpen in the postseason. So I think the Mets young core right now is ahead of the Yankees.
Yeah, they would probably need Volpe to get better offensively to like make that gap up a little bit, and then Dominguez will have to be like what we think Dominguez could be. Although I will say he did show something in the brief time when he came up a few years ago. It was only 8 games, but like last year wasn't good, and he's been dealing with a lot of injuries. So like we'll see what he has. I think they need like 20 from him at least, maybe 25 bombs at this point with the way the lineup is. Play solid to average defense. Doesn't have to be a lead out there, but just can't hurt them basically. And that's like what they have to hope for. But like it's just like the lineup's not complete, like you said. Like I don't know if there's a trade candidate. I don't think it's Arenado because of money purposes and a few other reasons maybe. Could they do Brian Hayes if the Pirates willing to play ball? Like maybe someone like that, but like I don't know if the Pirates are willing to play ball.
I think the Pirates are thinking that they could maybe surprise this year.
Yeah,
they have
exactly.
Paul Skeens, they have Mitch Keller. They're hoping Bednar gets back to the elite form we saw from 2021 to 2023. They're hoping Brian Hayes can hit this year. They have O'Neal Cruz. Like that's why like Marte and I feel like is a good landing spot for the Pirates if the Mets pay a portion of his salary. But I floated that idea for Bednar, but they're not going to trade. The Pirates are not trading Bednar. They're not selling low on Bednar. Let's put it that way. He is right in control after 2025. Like the Pirates are out of it by the All-Star break and by the deadline, and Bednar's having a good year. He probably will be shipped out, and they'll get some pretty good assets in return because he has 2026 that he's under contract as well.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. I did read your Bednar piece, and you've really been putting the pedal to the metal lately. All this news coming out, and now it's like a really crazy time because we got 2 weeks till spring training, but so many players are still unsigned. The Padres and Twins still got to maybe open up some payroll. Like the Cardinals haven't done anything. Like some stuff's got to happen, and that still hasn't yet.
Well, January is always the deadest month of the year for the baseball calendar, and I'm doing my best to put the weight of the world of the hot stove on my shoulders and and keep you satisfied during this time before spring training. So,
yeah, you're the go-to guy right now, so it's a perfect time to get you on, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do and how things go for spring. So I'll give you 2 final ones because I know you probably got to go soon. So give me your off-season grade for the Mets if they don't do anything else.
Well, they got Stanek back now. They brought back Winker. If they don't do anything else, B minus. Nah, well, they got Soto, so let's give it a B. Maybe lean towards a B plus. If they brought back Alonso, or if they do bring back Alonso, we'll give them an A. And if they get Alonso and a frontline starter, it's or even a Pivetta, it's an A plus.
Yeah, I think that's all reasonable. I actually gave them a B plus myself before the Stanek move, so we're on the same train there. So I'll drop you off with Yankees. Yankees off-season grade if they stop, which unfortunately looks somewhat realistic at this moment in time. Or even if they added Tim Hill, it doesn't really move it too much for me. But like, how do you feel about it?
B minus because of what they've done with their pitching. Max Fried, and they traded Nestor and got Devin Williams. Fernando Cruz, I really like as a strikeout guy, hard thrower. They brought back Loaizaga. Yankees have a really good bullpen, really good rotation on paper. They have a true number 2 starter behind Cole now and a co-ace in Fried. He doesn't have good postseason numbers. But he did in his defense, he stepped up in Game 6 of the 2021 World Series and helped the Braves clinch. But on offense, they replaced Juan Soto with Cody Bellinger, who I think is a nice player, and Paul Goldschmidt. He had a good second half, but he's 37 years old, and he had a really, really, really poor year for the most part. And they're saying that they're a better team offensively, which doesn't make sense. They're not a better team offensively at all, but unless Dominguez has a breakout or Volpe or both. And Jazz Chisholm, hits at an all-star level, which we don't know. So yeah, they get a B- and no more than that, because they improve their run prevention a lot and improve their defense, and maybe might be a more complete team now, not as top heavy, but they haven't replaced the offensive production with Goldie and Bellinger. They have not done that for Soto.
I couldn't agree with you more, honestly. I said B- as well. Like, basically all the stuff you said is so accurate. And the fact that Hal said yesterday that Goldschmidt and Bellinger, like, is going to replace Soto, like, that's just not true. Like, I don't know why he's even saying that. Like, 2022 was the last time those two had the combined WAR that was higher than Juan Soto, and that was 3 years ago. And then they did it once in 2019 too. Like, even combined, like, they're only a fraction of him still. Like, even if they go like to their best ability, they're still probably not passing his WAR for like the current state of what they are.
The Yankees have a theme. It's the ghost of MVPs past. Giancarlo Stanton, Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, and Aaron Judge is the ghost of MVPs present, but the rest of them the ghost of MVPs past.
Yeah, and they're all National League MVPs too, which is nuts. Besides Judge, obviously.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, exactly. It is a disappointing end if this is what ends up happening, but everyone can follow Pat at Ragazzo Report on Twitter. He does a great job on Sports Illustrated. He's breaking news left and right, trying to keep the still alive on his back, and he's doing a great job in our area and even for other teams as well. So, Pat, thanks for giving me a few minutes, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you soon.
Of course, Julian, anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right, brother. So I'll continue my little ending without Pat. Let me see if I can get the background back how it was. I kind of like that background in my single shot. See how I look. Okay. Yeah. So now I'll get to Zach G a little bit. Disappointing end to the Yankees offseason after a great pivot. Yeah, it is. And I'm not happy about it. And you can see it's just like, as a neutral observer for both teams, I'll say like it just the Mets all season's definitely been better, like no question asked. It's been way better, and especially since they took the best player off the Yankees, like the Yankees have not answered that properly. Their lineup is not good enough. Saying that DJ LeMahieu was still suitable in this day and age is not good enough, and Hal saying they can't spend with the Dodgers is embarrassing because it's not true. He's just not spending the money. So don't let him tell you he can't do it. He just doesn't want to do it. There's a huge difference there. And they have the money to do it. They have the highest revenue. They made the most last year because they're making the World Series, basically. They made more money than the Dodgers, actually. So that's they're just not using it properly. And okay, the lefty reliever, they might solve with Tim Hill. You might have some hope there. Third base, I don't have much hope right now, unfortunately, unless something changes. Like, we literally went through all the scenarios, and like, I don't see anything that makes too much sense. You brought up Rogers, and do I like that? No. But is it better than DJ? Yeah. At least he plays better defense. Brendan Rodgers couldn't really hit that well, but yeah, he didn't even hit that well at Coors Field, so like he's not going to hit that well. But I guess if you got good defense from a 9-hitter, it won't kill you as long as the other 8 guys are hitting. But that puts a lot on Dominguez, Wells again, which I do believe will do fine, and I like him a lot. Volpe has to have a big year offensively for this Yankees team to be in a better spot. And do I think the Yankees are a better team? Maybe team, but not better offensively. Like, it's tough to say if they're better overall, but like defense and pitching is better. But offensively, no, they're not, obviously. And I think Escara is a good option. I think you guys will be surprised with what you see, or anyone listening will be surprised with what they see from JC Escara. I think he's been battle tested. I know he's like 29 or 30 now, but he's a solid hitter. He can also play different positions too. I think he's a good bench bat, like I was saying last week. And I think he can get the job done if called upon as a backup catcher. I really do. So that's what I would do. I don't think they should spend any more money in that area, because if they're going to spend money, and Alex Jackson's not a suitable hitter, but he's a good defender, so I don't know what they're going to do with that if he gets to AAA. But if they're going to spend money, it has to be at infield and to get Tim Hill back. Like, they can't be spending money on a backup catcher. So that's how I feel about that. And I'm going to hit on a few other topics before I go. All right. So Pat's not here anymore, but he did do a nice chunk here. Yeah, you guys are looking better than the Yankees in this offseason, but getting through the Dodgers is going to be tough. But I'd rather see the Mets win than the Dodgers win. That's how much I have disdain with the Dodgers right now. Although I'm doing the Yankees and Mets podcast, so I'm not against the Mets. Okay, yeah, huge home and away split's another issue with him. Yeah, I'm just not into that one at all. So let's do Yankees IFA. Manny Cedeno signed for $2.5 million. He was the 11th ranked prospect in like the MLB pipeline rankings, and he's a good shortstop. He's a righty hitter. He's got good speed, good defense. He has potential to be a 5-tool player. His bat to ball skills are really good. So like it's a long way out. I think he's like 17, I think. So it's gonna take a while to see what happens with that. And we're gonna have to be patient with that. Like we don't know. Oh, I put that in the wrong spot. We don't know like how that's gonna look. So we'll see. He's ranked like I think they ranked him 18 or 19th on Baseball Network's prospects already. So he's already got some high regard there. So that's good. So that's some. I think he'll be solid. But is he like someone said he went to the same academy as Arias too? I think so. That's interesting. And I think we'll have to see how that progresses. I know some people were down in the Yankees in IFA class. Like for me, it's like too early to tell. Like we don't know what these kids are going to be, like how these rankings are going to look, or like how this is all going to come together. It's just like you don't. Juan Soto wasn't even ranked that well in his IFA class. Look how that worked out. Like a lot of the top guys don't pan out. A lot of hidden gems do pan out. No one knew who Christian Javier was, and he turns out pretty good. Same thing with Valdez and a lot of guys the Astros picked off. So that's like we don't know yet. They got a few pitchers. I think 4 or 5 are expected. Mainly shortstops, like a few outfielders. Ruben Castillo is a lefty hitter, and this kid's a great defender. He's also around 17 or so. And Castillo's actually kind of left off list when he shouldn't have been potentially, I would say, because I think like he's actually better than the list give him credit for. I really do believe that. And he might end up being better than Cedeno potentially. That's very possible. He's got good bat to ball skills as well. He's really athletic. He can go get the ball in center field. Someone told me he was like a Jose Siri defender out there, which is great. He might end up being an exciting prospect as well. So that's something we can look into, and we'll see. Like that, he signed for I think it was $850,000. There we go. Yeah, that's what he signed for. So we'll see how that ends up looking. And then they signed this Isaiah Castillo, another outfielder, for $750,000. So, and Cedeno's 16, my bad. I think Castillo's 17. If I could double check that, I'll look right now. Yeah, these ages are so fishy, and it's hard to fully trust it for several different reasons, but hopefully it's all checks out. I know the Yankees had one kid lie about their age that like they couldn't get. That was going to be a top guy in one of the leagues and one of the seasons. So that's a tough break for them. And yeah, doesn't even have his age here. I don't know, but we'll say he's like 17-ish. Oh, now it'll show me, I think. But anyway, like yeah, he is 17, I think. So that's good. And we'll see how that looks and how they track up all the how they track everything up with that. I'm gonna go through some other topics too. Let's talk about the Yankees competition in the American League. I'll spare the Dodgers talk for now. Yankees. Okay, it doesn't want to go. So the Yankees AL competition, I would say, is like the Orioles. They did not do that much, so I'm not too upset with them really about or too worried about them getting in the Yankees' way. They kind of went backwards. The Red Sox, I think, could be a threat maybe. Baltimore's really been underwhelming. I didn't talk about them on the last podcast, but Pat mentioned Mountcastle. Maybe they tangle him or Mullins to try to get something like a better pitcher or something, but that's something they got to figure out. Did I hear anything about Alonso? Yeah, we talked about Alonso before. There's nothing like definitive yet, but the Mets' chances might be better than they were before Cohen blasting them. Actually, like they're trying to figure it out. Like I think the Blue Jays have kind of not in the good position as they were a week ago, maybe. My buddy said it was like 50-50. He thought if he returns. I just don't see the Mets offering much more than what they did originally. So he's going to have to turn back and accept that. And that's up to him compared to like other offers he gets. So that's what we're going to have to see, like if that ends up happening, coming to fruition. So I'll take a look at that as well. I'll keep you posted on that one. So who else could be in the Yankees' way, I think? So I would say the Tigers are intriguing. I want to talk about Gleyber Torres and the Tigers too, because now looking at all this, why didn't the Yankees bring back Gleyber Torres? Okay, base running, defense, maybe not playing 100% at full times, which I would push back against because I don't think he was dogging it. I think that's just how he plays, like if that makes any sense. Like I don't think he means anything bad by the way he plays, like not disrespectful or anything. I just think he didn't always have his full energy or ever. I don't know. But like, and regardless of that, his offense is going to be missed. Like if you take away the other stuff, like the base running and the defense, I get. But like, if DJ LeMahieu has to see this lineup, Gleyber Torres is going to be missed. The people are already talking about it. He got 1 year for $15 million. It's not like the Yankees couldn't afford it, but again, luxury tax issues. So they decided not to, and I think he's going to help the Tigers. Like, was Gleyber the perfect player? No. Did he get on base a lot in the playoffs? Yeah, he did. Could they find a better leadoff hitter than him? Maybe, but right now, that's very unknown. Jason Dominguez is one of my favorite prospects I've ever covered, but asking him to be the leadoff right away is going to be tough. If that's what they want to do, then hopefully he hits the ground running, and we're going to see. I really hope he does. I got more comments. Yeah, don't have any great leadoff options. Yeah, that's why Gleyber will be missed. I really do think so. So that's like again, like they're gonna get some base running and defense, but at what cost? Because is that trade off worth having the bat Torre, having the bat LeMahieu or Oswaldo Cabrera on a consistent basis? And I would argue that it's not worth that. I don't really think it is because he can hit, and his offense was coming around. Like he also hit better in the leadoff spot too, so they could have kept him in the leadoff. Maybe it all would have clicked a little bit more this year. He has always performed well in the playoffs. That was not just an aberration also. And I do think it helps the Tigers. If the Tigers get Alex Bregman, then I really think they'd be in business. But now there's talk about the Cubs getting Bregman. I think the Red Sox are in it. Yankees and Mets are definitely out, though. So in terms of this podcast, no team that we support or anyone is interested in for New York is getting Alex Bregman, most likely. Is he going back to Houston? It's somewhat possible. If Altuve is doing left field, he's experimenting out there. So that's a possibility. And we'll see if that's what they want to do. But his market's going slower than he would like to because Crane's not coming off the 6 for 156. He wants more. Rumors that there's one deal out there in the early opt-out after 6 in the 6 years, but I don't know. Yeah, the leadoff issues are bad. Another guy I'll mention briefly who I don't really like, but it is an option if the Astros don't sign him or haven't already while I'm doing this. I should have probably checked Twitter really quick just in case because the way news has been dropping, you never know. Jorge Polanco, thoughts? Honestly, is it better than what they might do now? Would I rather see him than TJ LeMahieu? Yes, and yes. But if you're talking about trying to fix defense, and base, and well, I don't know about the base running, so I'm not gonna go anything there. If you're talking about trying to fix defense, I don't think Polanco is the best option. He is not a great defender. I think it was negative 10 run saves on second base or something. He's not really a third baseman, so I don't know. I really don't. But we're going to have to see what they want to do with that. I just don't think he's that great right now. Could he be better? He's a switch hitter. That's nice. He has some pop from the left side. He did have 16 bombs in Seattle, which is a cesspool of hitting. So maybe. But the defensive fit is awkward. He hasn't really steal many bases. His on base was 296 last year. The Yankees don't want that. His career on base is 330. His best on base was 356. And this was 2019, though. His best recent season was like 2022, and he got like a 346 on base, which is good. OPS in the 750 range. 2023, 789, only 80 games, though. And then you have the situation in 2021, he was pretty good. That was actually one of his better years. And 2019 was a juice ball. He had an 826 OPS, but again, we're talking about 4 years ago. So what Jorge Polanco are you getting? I don't know. I really don't. So I don't think it's the best move, but I guess it's not the worst move because what else is left to do at this point? Like, he's the last option they could sign now because of Kim. So I'm not too optimistic about any of it. I don't like any of the options, but anything's better. Almost anything's better than having TJ actually play meaningful baseball this year for the New York Yankees. That's how serious this thing is. He's 31, Polanco. You sign him to a short 1-year prove-it deal. It doesn't hurt you financially. That can still allow him to finagle the tax, which I know anyone doesn't want to hear. Personally, that's not how I would do it, but that's what they would do. So that's like, yeah, it's frustrating. It's annoying. I get it. And I wish I had better answers, but I don't. Could they at least get Hill back? I mean, sure. And then I'm going to go on 2 more things, too, and then I'll probably wrap up. I want to be under an hour this week because I did say I would get shorter, and Pat came for part of it. So, again, I'm still working on my timing with stuff. But I want to talk about the Diamondbacks, actually, because I think they're being slept on. I think they're a very legitimate threat to the Mets also. Yeah, exactly. That's something with Polanco. So, yeah, it's possible. We'll see. But I think the D-backs are being slept on because they're in the same division with the Dodgers. But at the same time, they are very good. Like, you can make a case they're a top 3 to 4 team in the National League with that rotation they have with Corbin Burns now. And they have beaten the Dodgers in the past before. And the reason I want to bring them up is because I feel like Jordan Montgomery is another guy that should get traded. I don't know if that's a Mets fit. It's definitely not the Yankees fit anymore. But, like, the way Scott Boras handled his free agency was a disaster class. And you're seeing Zudy going Alonso and now Bregman. You saw it for Chapman and Snell, and they were able to recover. That works well. But Blake Snell pitched horribly in the first month he returned. He wasn't ready. So is Pete Alonso going to be ready whenever he gets in there? Is Alex Bregman going to be ready? I don't know. We'll see. He's not really holding over any pitchers anymore. So maybe Pavetta. Yeah, I don't think he's with Flaherty, so that's not on him. But again, like, I do think the Diamondbacks should be taken seriously, and I definitely think they're going to return to the playoffs this year. And the Mets are going to have to compete. Like, they could be the 3rd best team in their division now. The Braves got Profar. It's a big move. That really helps them out a lot. We'll see if they end up getting Cease or something. The Mets are in a 3-team dog fight. Any of those 3 teams can win it, so they have to do more. The Yankees have a more clear path, but again, it's not guaranteed. The Astros may be getting better if they get Bregman back. That really closes the gap again. The Rangers are really good too now, and if DeGrom's healthy, they'd be good. So that's Tigers, Royals. Royals got Estevez. That closes the gap more. They need the bullpen arm. That's a good move. See if I can grab the terms of that one real quick before I get off, because I didn't even go over the terms. Pat just told me they signed. Yeah, I didn't get anything on that. I'm not sure if there's any financials out on it yet. Okay, whatever. It's fine. It's a 2-year deal with an option. All right. I don't know the money. It's fine. So I'm about to sign off here. We got about 1 minute left. My final rant is going to be on Makamori. Don't get worked up on Makamori, Yankees fans. How many times have we seen this already? Like, we don't need to get worked up on Makamori. Yeah, unless they get a third. But yeah, no, I agree. There's definitely some issues with it. But with that being said, Makamori is not someone I'm getting caught up in. First of all, the Japanese players are not coming to the Yankees anymore. Second of all, he might not even be the best at making contact. And he's been slipping since like 2 years ago when he had that big home run year. He's kind of got down each year. So we'll see what he does this year. But I'm not losing sleep over Makamori. If the Yankees do or don't get him, I'm not even going to worry about it. If they get him, cool. If not, whatever. And then like they need to focus on Kyle Tucker. And everyone knows that. But yeah, it's like it's up and down the Yankees. So like it might we don't know what's gonna happen, but hopefully they do something soon and stop sitting on the tax. I say one and done this year in playoffs. They're barely a playoff team. They got older too. Losing Soto was a devastating blow. No, they're not beating the Dodgers. Absolutely not. But I don't think they'll be one and done. I think the AL is very weak. I think they'll be able to navigate through that. But once they hit the National League, they're going to be in trouble. And I do think that's something worth figuring out, like if they can get better there. But yeah, I don't think they almost barely made it too. Like they were the division winner last year. I mean, yeah, I know it went down to the last game of the year, but no, one of the last series of the year. But yeah, Dodgers probably are going back to back. But till next time, thanks everyone. I appreciate it. Check out our skiing everywhere. Julian Guardi 1 on Twitter. Julian Guardi 11 on Insta. Thanks again to Pat Ragazzo. Follow him on the Ragazzo Report, Instagram as well. So for now, I'm signing off and I'll be back next week.